Hello, welcome to this new episode of Coffee with Developers. I have a very special guest today with me. It's Ulrich Irnich. He is the CIO of Vodafone Germany, and I'm very much looking forward to talk with him about IT, obviously, about his personal career path, about some current trends such as AI, quantum computing, and other topics. And of course, about some leadership topics, because this is his day-to-day work. So, Uli, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm looking really forward for that talk.
Yeah. So, first things first, as this podcast is called Coffee with Developers. So, how do you drink your coffee, or if you do drink any coffee?
So, if I drink coffee, and I do drink coffee, I would say a lot.
Yeah.
I drink it black. Without sugar, like my soul.
Okay. So the one that I prepared for you is perfect.
It's perfect. Yeah.
Great.
Coffee is for me a big thing in life, right? So everybody else enjoys wine or other things. I enjoy coffee, and especially espressos. And if you have a good taste of the coffee beans, fantastic.
Okay. Well, that's more like an Americano, probably.
Normal coffee. Yeah.
Yeah. Will be sufficient. Uli, I mean, we have something in common. Like my background is in electronics, electrical engineering, and then later technical informatics. And you have as well a background in electrical engineering.
Correct.
Would you be so kind and tell us a bit about how you explored your fascination for IT, technical topics? How did you end up in this industry?
Well, that's a good question. That's also what my wife is asking me all the time. Why are you doing what I'm doing? I think my interest for tech starts already I would say in the 10th class, right, of our school, with physics and experimentation and electrics. And I found myself, that's very, very interesting. I also, let's say, repair our TV myself and start really to get passion about everything what is tech. And then, of course, after my studying, right, I start my first career in the Nuclear Research Center in Jülich. And I was there accountable for a laboratory, and we looked for new ferromagnetic thin film layers. That's the mission. Unfortunately, the research institute invested 20 million Deutschmarks for two parts of the machine, one from ABB, one from Siemens. And it's like normal life, both together are not working together, right? So the noise was 50,000 times higher than the signal, right? So a big problem. So that was my first task, getting that solved. So that was more on the power supply of one of the machines. That was the issue, all right? And here also the coding comes into place, because you can remember this kind of ferromagnetic thin film layers is like on a glass plate, one atomic layer of this new material there. And then we measured from room temperature up to -4 to -269 degrees of 4K, for Kelvin, right? And we measured that kind of probe for each 0.5 temperature change, 3,000 measure points. And that's something you can do with Notice, or I did it with a program with Turbo Pascal, right? That was the code we used at that time, right? And after this was in normal mature mode, I changed to my next station.
Okay. So Turbo Pascal. So if anyone is out there looking for someone and having some legacy software, and you need someone in Turbo Pascal, then Uli could be a good guy for that. And how did you end up then in the telecommunications industry? Because your whole career is actually like you've been in the telecommunications industry.
I'm now in the telecommunication industry since 12 years, right? Before, I worked 7 years for General Electric, doing really process optimization. So the big GE Six Sigma times, I was there. First for Germany and then for Europe. Then I changed to the other side of the IT, so a system integrator, computer center. I worked there and was managing director for managed service solutions, so taking really business process outsourcing. And then I was fed up with big companies, right? And I said, I need to go to a startup. And I signed already a contract with a startup in Berlin, right? Which looks for a platform for purchasing, let's say, materials, right? Which was a really, really great solution. They were in their third round. And then my former boss called me and he said, well, we at E+, the telco, right? Telecommunications here in Germany, right? And we are really outstripping a part of the business, and we are looking for a managing director who has tech background because we want to, let's say, manage the purchase of devices differently than the normal stuff, right? And there I signed my contract with E+, right? Being a managing director there. And for us, it was important to shake a bit the industry because at that time, the telecommunications were very much on the SIM cards and want to sell contracts, but everybody's looking for devices. So, and how can we shake up this kind of device business? And we were the only operator at that time who has, don't tell anyone, who has no Apple contract, but we sold Apple devices. Yeah. So how can that be, right? And we were in Germany market leader for iPads with a cellular card with 35% market share. Wow. That's massive, isn't it? And our logistics platform was, I would say, the magic key behind it, because we connected at that time, and it's already 12 years ago, we connected 400 distributors to our platform across Europe, and we source from everywhere in Europe. And the Apples and the Samsungs, they said, well, you need to have a contract with us. Otherwise you cannot sell. We made it differently. And we used that hardware business to lead, let's say, traffic to our shops and also to our web shops, because people were more interested on devices instead of having good contracts.
Yeah, okay. And fast forward, because that's already similar, to your role now, you have to look somehow into the future and think about innovation in processes, innovation in what the technology will bring, and so on. So today you are CIO at Vodafone Germany. In a recent conversation we had, you mentioned that there are 4,000 people in your team, mostly tech workforce, engineers.
We started 3 years ago to say, for us, technology is the main shift in our industry, right? Connectivity is important for everyone, right? For our society, but especially customer experience comes with software and how we are managing journeys, right? And therefore we said, we made it very bold, 50% of our workforce will be software engineers by 2025. At the moment, we are already very close to that target, to be very honest. So we are at the moment at 42%, right? So
it's only 2023.
But I'm very, very optimistic that we achieved that. And that's, I think, the big shift in our industry, right? That most of the, let's say, customer experience is done by software, right? It's not. So if you look to networks, right, and you need to have a solid connectivity, that's the ground rule, of course. But if you have good connectivity, all interactions, everything what we are seeing, and also the experience customer will experience is on software.
And just to make it clear for our audience, because when you think of telecommunication industry and when you think of Vodafone or other providers, then you think about, of course, connectivity, but mainly it's you call someone, right?
Yeah.
But actually, there is so much more behind, because just for that one kind of part of the service, you probably wouldn't need so much infrastructure and so much people and so on. That maybe if you could just list up a bit of a few projects that a big telecommunication provider such as Vodafone does.
Let's start with our core business, right? Which is the connectivity business. You have mobile networks, you have fixed networks, you have fiber networks, and you have IoT networks, which are the big four networks we are having. And the fifth network, I would say, is data, right? So we are really, really, really data rich. So we have mobility data, we have connectivity data, we have so much data, I would say, where you can easily connect on your platform business, right? And for us, the growth engine is coming from beyond connectivity. So especially if you look to enterprise customers, so small, medium customers, and also corporate customers, they are looking and they have the same challenges than every IT company, and they want to buy services, and we are providing more service about that. So that means we are providing cybersecurity solutions for our customers. Mm-hmm. We are providing cloud services for our customers, unified communications, and that's the value add we are increasing, especially for our enterprise customers. Mm-hmm. Now, looking at our consumer,
so they can focus on their core business and
correct,
take care of everything.
Exactly. Or look at the projects we are doing at the moment with some of the big corporates, which is mobile private network on their campus. Why customers are looking for their own network, mobile network at their campus. You see that on the technology, right? If you look to 5G and maybe in some years 6G, mm-hmm. the latency is the big game changer. Mm-hmm. So you will have a lot of broadband, right? So you get a lot of data driven on that kind of network, but the latency is pretty.
So you can't do
low.
everything with satellite because of latency.
Absolutely, mm-hmm. and for our, let's say, enterprise customers, especially if they are in the automotive sector or in the production sector, they need low latencies to control their machines, right? And having that kind of thing. Looking at the consumer side, low latency, if you look to the gaming industry, is a big key. You know, the biggest word I learned from my oldest son. Oh, are you downloading? My game is lacking. and that's where this kind of networks are making a difference, right? You have low latency. And if you can imagine the big boom on Pokemon, right? Where you have people coming together, celebrating together and want to have, let's say, the best skin and the best Pokemon together. And you see how networks can make a difference on that, especially if you give the bandwidth and also this low latency to that area where they are celebrating. It's a big shift, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean that is still like kind of the technical aspect of connectivity. Obviously, that this fundamental technology builds the fundament. But when I look at like what you do as a service, as a product, like then I saw when you talk about IoT, I mean that is super fascinating. Like there are this kind of robots, there is the automotive sector, there's autonomous driving stuff, there is like a lot of cool stuff that and cool buzzwords, obviously.
Of course.
But that usually someone wouldn't say like, hey, that is kind of obviously part of your business. If you think about it, it's logical that you come to that, but and that's a bit like kind of what I would also like to talk about, like what do you do in that area?
Yeah. You know, we are here at the 18th floor, right, in our podcast studio. If you go to the first floor, we have our future innovation floor. You know, we grown up with the heritage of mobile, right, and network and all kind of things. That is in our DNA, of course, but our business is more and more broad on the topics you described. For example, we are managing drones, right, for hospitals. We are managing augmented reality for hospitals. We are managing this kind of new technology in the name of Vodafone, right? So you can buy this kind of cool things. And if you look at IoT, if we have, I would say mostly the biggest platform on IoT, where we see the biggest growth also going forward, right? If you see how many things are adding now to the network, it's already more than humans on the earth, right? So that means that will be also an acceleration for us. And that's a big thing for us. And therefore we need also software, because this kind of solutions you can only manage if you have good software engineers, right? And manage that for our customers.
And I once heard you had a great keynote at our WeAreDevelopers World Congress this year. That's also why I reached out to you and said like, hey, there are so many cool information in this half an hour. Let's do another podcast episode and dig a bit deeper there. And then you said like every car has a Vodafone SIM card. So that's also fascinating. And obviously the automotive industry also relies heavily on low latency, connectivity, all of these things. And do you work together with kind of closely together with the automotive companies to kind of provide better experiences and connectivity.
Yeah, we are running this kind of, let's say, workshops together, right? Because we strongly believe that cross industry we can make better experience for our customers. And if you look to the automotive, most of the cars are getting now more and more towards a computer, right? Than a car, right?
Yeah, and smartphone on wheels.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Smartphone on wheels, and using all the possibilities technology can deliver. That's what we want to generate with that. And looking, for example, we announced now with Audi together an indoor navigation for their, let's say, hubs where they charge their big electric vehicles to give customer the experience when they are waiting there, what they can experience in that hub, right? And we are using the smartphone or glasses you can wear to orient in that kind of hub. And this is also something we experience together.
Digital twins.
Digital twin, for example. Yeah, absolutely. And for us, all the network I explained before is already in a digital twin where we can simulate when we also, nobody wants to have crisis, but if you remember 1.5 years back where we had the big flooding, right, where we need to establish and re-establish connectivity fast, we use the digital twin to simulate where do we have to stick to our mobile sites and install them and have after 24 hours, 48 hours connectivity again.
That's interesting because now when we talk about the different layers of like possible products, possible use cases, all based on this connectivity layer, then I mean there is never ending possibilities that of products, projects, whatever you can do. And I mean you are in the driver's seat as a CIO to kind of also look into the future. And I'm interested a bit in your role and your day-to-day work, and generally also like, I mean, how can one imagine that you need to decide on, you need to say no to many other options, right? You need to say, hey, we want to do drones, we want to do small robots, delivery robots, we want to do automotive sector. Okay, some of these things might be obvious because the market shows it, but other things are maybe not so obvious, especially if you say, like, what is in 5 years, what is in 10 years? Like, how can one imagine like being in your role and like taking the decisions? How does that work? And also, how does one actually become CIO?
Oh, that's a good question. Let's zoom in a bit in the role of a CIO, right? Everybody remembers we started all with operational stability. So in my view, every CIO has at least 4 to 5 phases. And the one is the ops guy, right? So, and that's a foundation. If your IT is not running stable, nobody believes you any innovation you want to discuss, right? Because that's the fundamental base. The second one is really driving change in the organization. That means connect the dots between the lines. If you look to business processes, right, we are coming from an area, and most of the companies are in that situation, that you optimize in their silo everything, right? But getting the process, and that's how customer experience it. It's a horizontal flow. So my second role is getting this horizontal flows clear and giving the guardrails behind that. The third layer is, of course, I also need to help the customer or the company to save money and to inject new growth areas. So that means the role of a CIO has also, let's say, developed in that way that everybody looks at you, what can we do with technology and how can we help the company to turn around to make, let's say, new revenue areas available. That's also a role of the CIO.
I mean, the future relies on your decisions somehow, like, because, if you say, let's go that direction, and at the end, like, there is no market for that, then it's not so funny.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you have the fourth layer, which is the innovation layer a bit, right? So how can you imagine future trends and also how you experiment and learn with that kind of things so that you get an idea on that. People, we are humans. We are normal linear thinkers, right? And everything what you see in tech happens when it breaks through gets exponential. And most of the people cannot imagine what exponential is, right? And this kind of experimentation is so essential on twofold. Number one is you got experience on that kind of new technology. And number two is you get the humans to buy in. Because technology is always for us as a human, and that's the fifth layer. And that means inclusion. So how do we get everybody on board, and how do you get your initiatives going? Because that's also a hard thing I learned with my GE friends centuries ago, right? I think getting a project done is the easy piece, right? And getting technology work is the easy piece. Getting people to adopt to that new ways of working and the acceptance area, that's the hard piece. And inclusion helps you that people are getting that and helping to get that new technology working.
Then let's talk a bit about purpose, because this is a topic that I saw that you're quite often advocating for, like having some purpose in life, individually, but also in the workplace. I mean, it's not a secret. Like many companies, many organizations, like everyone talks about purpose, and you can find a purpose for literally every kind of job role or whatever. But I was fascinated when I was watching your keynote, like how you sold this purpose topic to the people, so that you really think, okay, in your role, you really found a purpose, and at Vodafone with these projects, like things like the drones and the hospitals, the Vodafone Foundation, for example, which we will also talk a bit about, and the products making. And you actually said, okay, if I remember correctly, it was about making the life of people easier. So which is one of which is a very nice purpose, but maybe you can elaborate a bit on that topic. How do you see that, and how do you find purpose for yourself?
That's really an important point for me. Purpose. I think most of the companies, if you ask them, they have a purpose, right? And most of the companies has the purpose on coffee cups, right? So, but as long as it is on coffee cups, it doesn't mean anything, right? The question for me is always starting with the individual himself or herself, because if you have, and I remember myself back when I was young, nobody taught me about a purpose or what is my purpose of life or something like that. I was young, I need to earn money. Of course, that's important. But you feel, and if you look to the engagement rates of employees in companies, you see a lot of companies where the engagement is below 50% and less. And why is that? Because the company's purpose and the purpose of the people are not in sync. And then you are earning money, but it's hard earned money because you're doing something which doesn't make any fun. Right, and
so you don't have motivation to
absolutely, and you know, everybody talks about motivation, but the key question for me is, have you really found your purpose in life? And if the answer is not yes, then please think about it. And I want to have my leadership teams having conversations with our employees to ask, what is your purpose in life? And if there's no clear answer, but you are feeling good, that's not bad. But you need to remember, when you haven't found a purpose and you're feeling good, you're living the purpose someone else.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. And that's something, and you see that also from statistics. If you look to the US, right, just a quarter of the adults know their purpose. And if you ask, I do that also regularly, ask people, do you know your purpose? And then they look at me and say no. And that's something we need to identify, because then it's easier to link company's purpose with your own purpose. And you see also that people are growing and unlocking really their full potential.
I mean, maybe also because it is like kind of people tend to overthink it. Like, I mean, purpose is a big word, right? And it's everywhere, and then you kind of always think about like it needs to be something super special or so. And I mean, how did you find your purpose? Let's do that exercise. How did you find it, and what is it? And did you find it, or
I found it for me. Of course, I want to do an impact for the digital society with all the things I'm doing. And that resonates pretty good with our, let's say, company purpose. We want to connect for a better future. And that has inclusion for the planet. So what is our contribution to our planet to reduce carbon footprint or whatever, right? And how we shape the digital society. And that has a lot of dimensions. And you see my goosebumps, right? So that resonates to me, right? Yeah. So and if I wake up in the morning and see I can, with all the things I'm doing, I contribute to that, that's fantastic.
So you have some appetite for that, and that's very nice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I want to really find people who have also found their purpose and that connects to their daily doing, because then you have really the plateau where you can unlock the full potential.
Yeah, thanks for that insight, because that's very nice. And I mean, because purpose is always also connected with things like social responsibility, doing good things, and these kind of things. There is the Vodafone Foundation. Maybe you can explain shortly like what the Vodafone Foundation does and how it is kind of in the ecosystem of Vodafone. How is the work together? And
yeah, we are very proud of the Vodafone Foundation because we are looking at several aspects of the society. First of all, especially if you look to Gen AI or AI itself, how can we make sure that the ethic path is well respected and also injected into that? That's one part of the Vodafone Foundation. The second one is we are educating people to drive in crisis regions. When you see the earthquake in Turkey, or where we really educate people and also give our people time to help people on the ground to make that kind of crisis a bit better, right? So, and you know that from yourself, right? If you're doing something for good for other people, helping them, it gives you so much energy, right? It's exhausting, no doubt, right? If you are in that kind of crisis, it's exhausting. And we are developing also for that kind of things, let's say, for education. That's also very, very important for us. So how can we give, for example, in Africa, in some regions, education with iPad, with technology, right? And support them. Or if you have some kind of crisis, you see in the earthquake area, how we can rebuild connectivity so that people can communicate. Because in such kind of crisis, the first thing you want to do, you want to connect to your lovelies, right? And to see, are they good, are they not good, right? But therefore you need connectivity.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. You mentioned one topic, like one buzzword. I mean, more than a buzzword, like AI, Gen AI.
Of course.
It's like everything currently is about that technology, or I mean, as this podcast is like for developers and we're a very technical audience, obviously AI is a container word for many different things. But I mean, there is, I think, some common agreement that Gen AI is something that is very much changing the industry and opening up new possibilities. It's not a new technology, like probably all of us had something to do with it also in recent years, but it became publicly available so everyone can feel it, touch it, use it.
Yes.
And now, how does that change like the business, or how does it influence the business of a telecommunication provider? What are the possibilities and maybe also the threats?
Let's step a bit back, right? And you know all that. You know that all. AI is not just since a year; it's there since 70 years, right? Yeah. So the good thing what we have at the moment is that we have a perfect storm, right? We have enough data, we have compute power, which is cheap, to be very honest. We have mobile data, we can connect easily dots, right? So that's a big accelerator of that. And that's also what we are seeing now with large language models. I got always shocked when you're at the supermarket cars area, right? And the cashier is talking about Gen AI, right? So ChatGPT. Then you are at the hype cycle, right? And you can solve every problem of the world with Gen AI. It's not, right? I think at the moment we need to give good education to our public and also to our society. What is it and what is it not? AI is already with us since a decade. And if you look to our network, we are using abuse management, right, to protect our customers, that there is no, let's say, hacker attacks on their devices and all kind of things. That's something we are doing already
since years, probably.
Yeah,
right? Also, like the banks use it for kind of
fraud management.
Exactly.
So that's fantastic. The fascinating on large language models is you are giving some keywords in and it gets you a full text, right? So that's fascinating for us. I see the same effect when we are on fairs like the OMR and when we have a human bot standing there. Yeah. Everybody is photographing it and all kinds of. It's fascinating for us, right? Yeah. It's so unbelievable, but it's fascinating. But on the same side, it will shape the industry. Yeah. It will shape the industry because the possibilities on co-piloting things is immense, right? But also our social responsibility behind that is immense, right? So can we control? Can we make sure that we are not, let's say, having an ethic or an unethic behavior, right? But I'm truly believe that with this kind of technology, we can shift that what we want to develop in the future more to the endpoint where you need it directly. So imagine you can co-pilot on the agent or on the shop side directly, that they can optimize their workflow as much as they can. And here's my statement from the keynote. How can we reduce customer and employee effort, right, to get a better experience?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, and then it's again with kind of how to make people's life easier, because honestly, even when you have when do you call customer service? Either if you have a problem or maybe if you need some information, and both things are often, in many cases, no matter what industry, is like frustrating, because not because the experience itself is maybe frustrating, but because it takes time, right? It takes time to ask, take time to get the answers, sometimes for very simple things. So that is definitely like one of the things. But how do you see, like, how is it then, for example, for Vodafone? I mean, obviously you need a lot of kind of tech specialists, tech experts that are working on in this kind of field. And how does it change, like, also for you internally, now speaking about like the operational and the technical layer of what you listed as your responsibilities? Like, do you already use Copilot in your teams, or?
Yeah, I think if you look to companies, there are mainly, and it's the same for us, three main challenges. Challenge number one, you need to have a clear data model, right? Because what we experience in the past years is that most of the silos develop their own data model, and you need to have one, right? Because that's essential for that. You need to have it scalable in a cloud environment, and you need to have guardrails. You saw all the public announcement that somebody pushed secret information into Gen AI, right, into OpenAI, and then experience, we disclose company secrets, right? And that are meant with guardrails. So we have to make sure that everybody who is co-piloting on their best behavior, there's no one who wants to, let's say, get the company into problems, but sometimes they don't know. And so we need to generate this kind of secure landing zone, right? Where this guardrails like security, data protection, and how we handle our own company private information with this kind of models. And we have established that so far, right? And we are now training people also in the wider community to work with that. And having some use cases available, which enlightens a bit the creativity and also the imagination, what's possible on that kind of co-piloting. And I give you a simple example, what we implemented now, which is not a big thing, but it makes a big difference for customers and the agent. When you're starting a digital journey on the chatbot or on your app or whatever, and you come to a point where you not solve your issue, what happened? You call. So, and I can guarantee that happened with most of the companies. When you call, you have to explain everything what you chatted again. And if you are in serious problems, your blood pressure, your mood is changing completely.
You miss the flight.
Absolutely.
I'm angry.
Absolutely. So what we did for the customer and also for the agent is to summarize the chat and everything what you do digitally in 3 sentences. So when you're calling, the agent see exactly the history of your chat and what is your problem, and can immediately enter the discussion on that point. That gives 2 wow effects. The agent wants to help you, easy, can connect directly, and also for the customers gives you a wow effect, which say, oh, I don't need to repeat it again.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah, you don't need to stream and everything.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and that's a simple
better experience for both sides. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's why effort is so much important for me. If I look to application, also to journeys and software solutions we are providing, how much effort has a customer put into place, and also an agent. And, we grown up since more than 28 years, right? And you have a lot of applications. And if agents need to use a lot of applications in serving a customer, it doesn't help the customer relation, because everything what the agent needs to do gets off the time he can or she can spend with the customer.
Yeah, true. That is very true. Talking about technological advancements, I mean, we had a lot of we had a lot of revolutions, but we had the internet coming, we had mobile era, we had social networks. Now we have AI and Gen AI and these kind of things. Like, what excites you in the future? Like, is there something like you're interested in, or you have a thought on? Like, is the next big thing then in a few years quantum computing, for example? Or?
Quantum computing is a big part also in 6G. So that means the next.
So you're preparing already for that.
Of course,
that will change the whole.
That will change a lot, right? This is another step change, because that changed the games in security, that changed the games in compute.
There's actually security you need to do a lot from zero, right?
Exactly, exactly. And so looking at that, I'm totally fascinated about the technology, but now we need to translate it. What does it mean for us as humans, and how can it help us to solve problems we have in our world? And we have a lot of questions we didn't answer so far. And the big buyers, tech guy has always, he or she is in love with technology.
Yeah, they're always curious.
Well, absolutely. We're driving nuts
to push these buttons.
Exactly. And thank you, Birgit, that's my wife, for grounding me. Because when I explain to her, for example, 5G, she always asks me, so what? So what does it mean for me? Can I shop faster?
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, maybe. Can I get something which I didn't get now on 4G? And I said, might be not. And that's always the question we need to ask. Which kind of problem we can solve with this kind of evolution we are seeing? And we in our world have a lot of open questions which we have not solved. And if you look to some of the technologies, looking at, for example, blockchain, and compare that with sustainability, there's a big topic we need to solve, right? If you see what kind of energy consumptions we have with that kind of technology, there is some work to do.
I mean, when you mention it like blockchain, what is your take on that? Because you have like one part of the of the community that says like, good thing, changes a lot of things, decentralizes things. Then you have another part of the tech world that says like, there is still no real use case for that didn't exist before, that couldn't be made with other technologies. It's has a high energy consumption and so on. Like, any kind of thought about that?
For me, the biggest uncleared question, and it's not just blockchain, it's general. If we are looking to the technology developments, right? If you look to immersive technology, if you're looking to Gen AI, if you're looking to blockchain, there is one big question which is unsolved, which is identity. How we can make sure in the future that this talk is with us and not with somebody in the background, and it looks like us, right? And identity management is a big question, which is so far not really solved. Blockchain can play a big role. And my first thought about blockchain is that this will be a game changer for identity.
Mm-hmm.
But at the moment, if you look, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not, right? So, and therefore, I think that question is the main question we need to think about. How can we make sure that the digital sovereignty of our digital society is secured by a clear identity?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And it goes across governments, right?
And I mean, that is also a topic like, security, but also let's take a bit of turn to the topic of social responsibility. Like what, with all these technological advancements, with all the possibilities that we have there, I mean, we should use tech for good, but tech can also be used for bad things, and not even on purpose. It can also be on purpose, for just because think of like, you do things and don't think about social responsibility, and then there is a whole generation of people, or a whole industry of people, a whole bunch of people, like, having bad experiences, bad life, and so on. What can big techs, what can big technology companies, or also each individual do to kind of contribute to a socially healthy behavior, and address also maybe global challenges? I mean, climate change is one thing, but it's not the only. There is many other things. So what is kind of a key message to that?
Education is for me one central point, and it starts already in the primary school, right? If I look to my niece, or she gets very, let's say, addicted to reels, right, and influencing and all kind of things. But what I miss in her thinking is how you inject critical thinking. So how you can bring a critical mind into that. I don't mean against everything. I mean really reflecting what I'm getting.
The context of
absolutely what I'm getting. Is this really true, or do I need to reflect that on a different way? That's one dimension. And the second one is, I see a big role for tech companies in educating what's behind that kind of technology, and making very transparent what's a good thing and what's the bad thing about it. Because technology has always two sides, as you rightly said. And I feel this kind of transparency is a big thing. And for us, it's immense to sign in on the ethical roles in applying technology. Innovation can gain change easily, but it has to serve the digital society.
Yeah, that's a wonderful sentence, actually.
Yeah.
How do you stay up to date yourself? Like, I mean, you have big responsibilities. Birgit is asking you a lot of good questions. Kudos to Birgit. Is it just like news? Do you go to workshops? Like, how do you stay up to date? Because you need to know things about AI, Gen AI. You need to know things about blockchain, connectivity, 5G, electrical engineering, like all that stuff.
I think it's a bit like when you are addicted to technology, it feels easy to connect with new things, right? And you can easily dig into deep things. And my wife hates me for that, because
she loves you, obviously.
Of course, many other things. Of course. Yeah. But we have a rule: when I buy a new gadget, I need to get rid of another gadget, right? But when I got addicted, I tried to experiment with it. It's like on 3D printing or on augmented reality. I want to experience it, and I want to learn a bit by myself, right? So that's one dimension. The other dimension is, and that's the more critical one, you need to sort a hype from real value.
Yeah.
And especially, and that's at the moment when everybody is talking about Gen AI, you need to sort where can Gen AI really add value to your company, and ask 10 times the question, why?
So don't just do it for the sake of like, it's cool to have the technology implemented, like, in the when we got the App Store, then every company wanted to have an app because for the sake of having an app, but did it make sense? Probably in many cases not. I see that we are already very short on time. It's an interesting discussion. We need to do a second episode. Yeah, so let me come to an ending. Like maybe something like what does the future bring? Normally, people ask like, where do you see this or that in 1 year, in 5 years, and so on. But as you see, like it is this change currently, like past decades also, is so fast. So I'm not gonna ask like where are we in 5 years, but where are you? Where is the telecommunications industry in 20 years? And what is your role or part in that?
Okay, where is the telecommunication industry in 20 years? It looks different. I'm pretty clear on that. And it's more that you get, let's say, IT services out of the telco industry going forward. That's number one. I see.
Okay, I thought like maybe beyond Mars or something.
Maybe.
We need connectivity there then as well.
Maybe. That's also something we are working on, right? To get really a connectivity from the space with our networks. But given the physical limitation on latency, you cannot do that for everything. But it's good to connect. For example, if you have an autonomous car and you need constant connectivity, you might figure a space where you don't have this kind of connectivity and can use for a while this kind of connectivity. That can help, right? So combining that kind of things it's massively. I see us, that's my personal wish, right? Really as one of the trust partner going forward, who makes identity much, much clearer, and also how we guide customers to that environment. That's my wish.
And
for
your
this.
Personal part?
My personal part, I think
maybe Birgit is listening to this, so be very careful.
I would say my personal thing, my personal development is I would be still in a tech role, right? But the chief information officer is more a chief growth officer going forward.
That sounds good. Okay, then Uli, thank you so much. You're already done with your coffee. Our timer is off since a long ago, I see. But it was really beautiful talking to you. A lot of new insights. So I hope to have you another time as a guest as well in the future. And thanks for hosting us here in your Vodafone headquarters in Düsseldorf in the 18th floor. It's an amazing view from here. So we'll probably post a picture from here later on. And thank you for being our guest.
Thank you very much for invitation. Thanks for all these nice interview questions. And it sounds like a second episode.
Yeah. Could be. Yeah, I think so.